Hey Riel, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, dude.
Awesome.
It's Saturday morning. It's not raining.
You had an amazing show last night.
Oh my
Congratulations.
gosh. Oh my goodness. What made it even more amazing was that the whole thing to switch it to Saturday was like a 5 minute decision. I was
Mhm.
approached by a grounds director, and he's like, "So, have you seen the forecast?" I was like, "No, I knew it was gonna rain on Sunday." He's like, "Well, probably tomorrow night. So if you still want a fire show, really consider moving the show." And as a first year organizer, it's been really exciting to see the inner workings of how uh, both the event is run and how a Flow Arts Institute event is run, and how it could be different from some others. And I was building really great relationships with people and having a great time traveling up and seeing people in the interim between being at the first organizer meeting and now. But last night, when I asked for things that I needed, because as a performance organizer, I really have very little needs. I hang out in the lodge. I get my, or I, as long as all my performers come to their meetings, I really don't, I'm not involved in other ways. So um, when it was, push came to shove, I need a generator. I need everything to be transferred over, and we need it now because we have a couple of hours. It was just all so smooth. I felt really elevated. I wanted to do a great job. It's first year, kind of figuring out who to call and what to ask for, and everyone just gave me a bunch of hugs and candy and said you're doing a great job. And last night, just it was killer. It was so good. We had a tiny little hiccup with lights because an audience member kicked the power cable out
Mhm.
during the MC bit, which is fine. It wasn't during a performance. And I felt weird because I ran on stage. It's like, extend it, we gotta fix the lights. And then right as I ran on stage, it was fixed. Okay, never mind, I gotta go. Yeah. So it's a great time. I'm really happy with how the fire show turned out.
It went excellent. And what we're talking about is that due to the weather, they had to suddenly move the fire show, which was originally planned for
Tonight.
Saturday
Hmm.
night. We decided to move it to Friday night last minute. So it was the energy was great. It was a fantastic show, and this would have been an amazing like closing and big relief and big send off. And now we have another day
Hmm.
to reflect on it. But it definitely did bring the energy up. Incredible. Everyone's really bright-eyed, cheery out here today.
Well, you're gonna love the gala show, so I hope you still get that feeling.
Yeah. So the gala show. Tell me a little bit about that one.
So the gala show is really exciting because you can do a lot of. I mean, it's the non-fire show. A lot of people tend to think that non-fire means LED, but our only LED act throughout both shows was Circus Luminescence. And since they had to leave in the morning, like this morning, a Saturday morning, we had them perform last night, which was really great. That was a really last-minute decision, and it was great that they were flexible and they killed it. Oh my God, they did so well. Um, but the gala show it's great because you don't have the limitation of, a prop that's on fire, which can sometimes limit and stifle your movement. You're on kind of rough concrete out there.
Hmm.
It's just a different feel overall. And then the gala show, it's really safe. It's really contained. People can take their time and do a lot of things that they wouldn't be able to do normally. And we can feature a lot of props that we wouldn't have been able to feature before. At the 10th anniversary of Packfire, it was a for the 10th anniversary of Packfire, it was my goal to really start this next decade off with a bang. I've been to the past few years. I've seen who's been showcased, what they've showcased, and how things have moved forward. And they've been great years. I'd like to continue to grow and feature new artists and feature new props and new types of art. So I feel like we did a really good job.
Are you going to be the performance organizer for next year?
I hope so.
Oh,
I,
so you're also the person who's in charge of. Your opinion matters greatly in the selection of which performances were selected for the fire show this year.
it is my selection entirely.
So, what do you look for in an act for Pacific Fire?
Well, it's really interesting that you ask. I approached earlier this year. It was after I had the role of performance organizer, after I fell into it. A couple months later, a friend of mine, Kai Sosceles from the Bay Area, he had a first time event called Shape Summit. And it wasn't a flow arts retreat like Pack Fire or Fire Drums or Flame or what have you. It was more of like a flow arts kind of TED Talks, if you will. I looked at it as a means of identifying the parts of flow arts community and doing a lot of problem solving. Like many communities, they grow and they expand at a rate that you don't expect, and it just gets faster and faster. And if there are certain issues that are involved in that community that aren't recognized and taken care of appropriately and in a timely fashion, then they can kind of snowball out of control and potentially cause some serious harm in a variety of ways. So what was really exciting is one of the things that they had talked about was diversity. There was a women in juggling presentation by Kristen Railing and Josie May that just blew me away. And one of the things they talked about was the inequality in showcasing between genders. And so that was something that I really thought about when putting the show, and I wanted to put a show together, maybe even for the first time, that had more non-binary peoples and people who identify as women more than men. So something that a lot of people don't know about the gala shows coming up is that's the case. We have more women and non-binary people than we have males, and it's really, really exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing the community response to that type of show because everyone's amazing. So that was one thing that I kept in mind, but I also wanted to feature things that people haven't seen as often, still are familiar with, but kind of come up with do a lot of things that aren't. Fire is great. Fire is a spectacle, and it's really great to kind of get attached to that. But sometimes gala shows and non-fire acts can kind of take you into a much more intimate and careful space.
So before you were the performance organizer, you were also the sound engineer for
2 years.
Backfire. What did that job entail?
It was pretty simple. I ran sound for the shows. I had the performance organizer at the time did all of the prep work for me and obtaining all of the songs. I didn't even need to bring a laptop. I just needed to run the board. We have a tech meeting every Friday at Packfire at 1 o'clock, where all the performers come and we either obtain or confirm all of the notes that we have about their act, such as when the music starts, where they're going to be placed on stage, lighting, all that good stuff. So as a sound person, it was my job to make sure that everyone's song was correct. A couple times it wasn't, and we had to do some investigating that it was edited. If it was an edited song, that it was edited properly, and if it wasn't, I needed to know where I needed to make adjustments in the fader, or if there was a pop somewhere, if I needed to lower the highs or the lows or what have you. And then after that, it was just running the board in real time. And it was kind of tricky because I was unfamiliar with the songs. I'm unfamiliar with the acts. I haven't seen them. I know the people performing, but I'm watching them, and I'm also listening in real time. I sort of when I was in school for recording arts and technology, my instructor talked about how easy it is we have now, and back in the day there was one person that controlled a fader while a song was being edited in real time, and if anyone made a mistake, they had to start all over. The fader controlling specific frequencies, and so it sort of felt like that, like in real time I'm helping the show be as awesome as possible. We have to deal with like microphone techniques with the MCs, if they're really, really loud and high pitched but also get really, really quiet. Like that's really frustrating as a sound person. And so being able to compensate in a necessary way for that was, it's a challenge, but you pull it off, and everyone seemed to think that I did a really good job.
Well, that's great that you have a sound background, because when you're trying to plan the show out and you get to hear everyone's music, for this year's event, you got to control the flow and the energy of the transition between the different acts. What was going through your mind as you were listening for the show, or was there like a common theme or an energy?
Oh, for this year's shows? There was. I would have liked to have had a lot more time to think about it. If I'll be honest, as a performer, I get that sometimes it's tricky to get the required information to the people that you're performing for in a timely manner. About a month and a half ago, my stage manager and I wrote a Google form for people to fill out, send their information, send their song, do all of that, and I didn't get all of it until just a few days before I
Yeah.
left for Pack Fire. So it was really,
That's pretty normal.
it's it's typical. I understand it. So when I had just that amount of time left, I used my knowledge of understanding a journey through tracks. So you don't want to put all. Our theme for the shows this year was wow. 10 years, wow. We've had a lot of moody acts in the past, and we didn't really want to just have moody, melancholy acts. We also didn't want to just have really explosive, high energy acts, because you're either overwhelmed all the time about how amazing everything is, or you're kind of bored. Not to say that things aren't amazing, but if you don't have things pulling at, like, exciting you and giving you an emotional attachment, like maybe you're not really into something that's so moody, then you're kind of, as an audience member, you're not going to be having as a cohesive time all the way through the show. So it was my goal to start off on a really great foot. If you start and you finish on really great on good foots, then you can kind of play around with the middle. So I sort of look at it as during, like I was mentioning, going to school for recording arts. Part of that was music theory, and when you're creating a melody, you want to have arches and mountains, like up and down, and then you want to have an up, and then you want it to go down. So I was kind of looking at it that way, starting off strong, then kind of going down a little bit, and then back up and back down. So you're kind of going through a journey throughout the entire show that feels really cohesive and really flowy.
I definitely felt that last night. It was a fantastic show, and had a strong finale.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about it was excellent.
Did you have a piece that stood out a little bit more to you?
The club piece was definitely fantastic. That was the first time I've seen those LED clubs with the synchronization.
The circus luminescence?
The circus luminescence and the timing changes to the music. That was outstanding.
They killed it. They were so good. It almost looks like a bunch of machines are juggling.
Mm-hmm. I have to say, the Tyler Spades performance that you were also in, as his assistant, they were doing a Rick and Morty themed stage show, was also fantastic, and that was the finale. So
I requested to be as Morty.
Oh, you had to request.
Well, so he. It's funny about that act. Spades applied to be a sponsored performer.
Tyler Spades.
Tyler Spades, yes. He applied to be a sponsored performer really early on in our application window, he was so professional. He gave us everything we needed. He actually gave us a video of the act he was going to use, which when I saw that, I was like, okay, you're in. It doesn't matter. You're just in. And then I saw the video, and he's always done really creative, wonderful acts that are themed around something. You know, as a big fan of Rick and Morty for many, many years, I just knew that it would be a great way to close out the show. And he had requested that he needed an assistant. He needed a Morty, basically. It could be anybody. He just didn't want to have to look for it. And as performance organizer and a performer, I was sort of like, oh, this is 10 years. I kind of want to be, I know that I put the shows together, but I kind of want to be a part of it a little bit. And in that capacity, I felt, I'll just be as Morty. It's super easy. And it was a lot of fun. I got to be a derpy little sidekick.
Yeah, it was excellent. Now, you also work professionally outside here. Mm-hmm. What's the name of your act?
Well, I perform in Eugene, Oregon, where I'm located. Mm-hmm. I perform as, while my name is still Riel Green, I'm the guy with the balls, because I'm a contact juggler. And so, as a contact juggler, and I've been one for nearly 12 years now, it's not uncommon for people to describe what I'm doing to other people, but they don't know how to.
Okay.
So
for people who don't know what contact juggling is, how would you describe?
Well, the first thing I would say is if you've seen the 1984 movie Labyrinth with David Bowie, the crystal ball bit that the Goblin King does, that's more or less the guy who, quote unquote, invented contact juggling, though I could go on for days about that. That's sort of where it started. For those that haven't seen the movie, it is a manipulation of spheres.
Do you remember the name of the act or the contact performer?
Yeah, his name is Michael Motion. He was standing behind David Bowie.
That's right.
And what a lot of people don't know is that he didn't call it contact juggling. That was a book that was made by James Ernest in the early 90s that just had really, really simple figures that you could look through, but you couldn't actually see any movement, so you didn't know really what you were doing. But Michael Motion kind of came up with the idea of what he calls dynamic manipulation. And for many years, actually up until 2014, was very distant and borderline hostile to contact jugglers. He didn't like us. He didn't like us at all.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he was not a part of the community. He refused to be a part of it. And I don't even know if if he does contact juggling proper anymore.
Well, he's definitely invited to come.
He finally showed up to EJC 2014 and talked, and everyone had a great time. The reason, I can go on a small little tangent, the reason behind that is that he came from a time before social media, before the internet, before it was really easy, not I'll say easy, but before it was common for communities to get started and to build momentum without having to be in the same spot. Or, to him, you were successful if you had a TV special, and no magician or juggler stepped on the toes of other ones. Or if they did, then they would be blacklisted. They like, no, you're stealing somebody's act. And I know somebody who's actually been doing contact juggling techniques longer than Michael, just with silicone spheres. He wouldn't touch acrylics or crystals because that was Michael's thing. So to Michael, I feel like he was seeing a bunch of people take what he worked on for a very long time, and though it was part of a really great scene where people can learn skills and things like that, to him it was like, well, this is kind of my thing that I worked really hard to help myself be successful, and now it's not mine anymore. And I think that's silly because I don't think anything belongs to anyone. I think it's all of ours, and but that's just a difference of opinion. I respect him, though. I respect the hell out of him.
It is easy to make a timeline of all the things you've learned that other people discovered and created for you, to get there. I mean, even just like the ball itself that you're rolling, I don't know how to make a solid plastic sphere. It's perfectly balanced.
Yeah, it's tricky.
And so someone else had to come along and create that, and then knowledge is just inherited and shared.
And actually in the movies, he used crystal, which are really heavy, really expensive, and if you drop one and it shatters, you're going to be vacuuming that up for hours.
I think I remember hearing that they had a giant box of them, and he broke several of them.
I wouldn't doubt it
during
at
the
all.
shot, and it was mainly because they made him wear the black leather gloves.
And stand behind him.
Yeah, and so the combination of all those layers, and I mean, the gloves would probably be. Have you ever tried to spin sphere of gloves on?
I'm
drastically.
I'm a really sensory sensitive person in a lot of different capacities, and I don't when I started contact juggling, I stopped wearing all the wristbands and rings that I had instantaneously. Anything that gets in the way of my path is really I can't rely on it. And
I'm the same way with my dragon staff with like wristbands and necklaces too. I always have to think is this gonna choke me, get entangled? Is it just gonna break off?
If I go to a festival and they say that I have to wear a wristband, my first question is, can I wear it around my ankle, or can I just put it on a necklace and I'll never take the necklace off? And it can be a little frustrating, but I never really did gloves. I did gloves with when I started doing fire contact juggling, but I didn't have any training in fire performance at that time, and I didn't have a community. It was just a gift that somebody gave me, and I'll say it right now. Don't do what I'm about to say, but I used lighter fluid.
Ooh.
And it was...
Well, they do in magic shops and magician tricks, they do recommend lighter fluid for a lot of their props and stuff. So I could see how someone could make that natural.
I didn't do that from their recommend. I was living in Vermont at the time. A friend visited me. She gave me the sphere, and she gave me some of these fireproof gloves.
Oh.
And it was about 6:30 in a small town, and the only fuel source that I had access to aside from gasoline was lighter fluid.
Don't ever use gasoline.
Don't ever use gasoline.
Ever.
So when we got home, got to my house, we made some dinner. I had a glass of wine. I was really excited. And I put the gloves on, and I soaked the sphere, the old trick concept sphere, and I lit it on fire. And I'm playing with it. I'm like, oh, this is fun. This is cool. And I'm doing a butterfly, and I see the ball come on the flame on one hand, and I do a transfer to my other hand where the flame is, and I pull my other hand back that just transferred, and it's also on fire.
Oh.
So there's fire in both of my hands now, that are of a similar brightness and size. And so I just dropped the sphere. Thank goodness that there was some concrete there, and I didn't light because I was at my grandparents' house. They were out of town. I didn't want to burn anything down. But at
It's
this
good the
point,
ball didn't roll into the house or something.
yeah, yeah. And I had both of my hands on fire, but I had these gloves, and they're melting. They're not fireproof. They're like melting into my skin. Then I start to feel it, and I don't have the control to quickly take them off. They're starting to shrink, and so I'm doing like this crazy whip thing, and my hands got all blistered. It was gnarly.
Now that sounds really gnarly. And what we're describing is probably what about a 4-inch sphere.
It was about 4 inches.
Soaked in lighter fluid that would probably have about a 6 to 9 inch tail of a flame coming off of it.
A little bit. So it was a wooden sphere it was from Trick Concepts. It's the only one available at the time. It was a wooden core that had aluminum foil wrapped around it, and then Kevlar, as flat as possible, sewn all around.
And Kevlar is a fire-resistant material that basically works like a sponge for fuel props. So what I want to talk about then is we talked about how not to soak a contact sphere. What is the proper way and safe way to soak a contact?
I am happy to
sphere?
share this information. A lot of people like to keep it secret because they feel it ruins the magic of fire contact juggling. I'm like, screw that. People are going to be stupid like me. So how you use rubbing alcohol. Kevin Axtell, who's here, he's a contact juggler and did some fire stuff in the show last night. He uses 91%. I think he likes it a little bit brighter. But I've used 70% isopropyl alcohol because it burns at the lowest temperature degree. If you want it to be a little bit cooler, you could also take a spray bottle with some water and spray around it. You don't want to get it too soaked with water. It won't light, but it's also not the best for Kevlar. So soak that for a bit and then spray it with water. Light it on fire, and your people don't know that it's the coolest flame that's out there.
Now, is that for skin contact then? Do you need gloves on when you use 70?
I will always recommend gloves for it. I know contact juggling clowns that will just soak a wooden sphere in white gas for like 4 days and then use it on their bare skin. I don't like to use gloves with it. I think as long as you keep it moving, it's pretty tolerable. You're gonna smell a lot of burning hair though. Like if you want to not do that, shave your arms and your chest on those paths. You can't really do a lot of technical stuff, like a lot of really crazy stalls, because you almost always have to keep it moving. But it does only last a couple minutes anyway.
Let's see. Well, if people want to be able to find you on Instagram or on your YouTube channel, where would people have to look?
So my Instagram is at Riel Green, all one word, RIELGREEN. My YouTube will probably be updated pretty soon, but for now it's under Riel Keebler, SIRRIELKEEBLER. YouTube is not the most dominant social media platform right now, but I'd like to use it as a means to effectively archive information, especially for contact juggling, since our main source of information has just been recently removed from the internet, which is a huge tragedy. So that's probably the best way to find me. And then the same for Facebook. I have a Riel Green page, and then I have a page called The Guy with the Balls.
Excellent. Thank you. And so, Riel, my last question for you is, so this is my first time attending Pack Fire Gathering, and this is wonderful, having this rainforest that comes right up to the coastline and the beach.
Welcome. Glad you like it.
Oh, it's absolutely beautiful. I definitely hope to attend many more in the future. Tell me about your first Pack Fire, and then maybe even what this festival means to you.
My first Pack Fire was in 2014. This is my 5th year. I missed 2016. 2014 was immensely special for me. I was 26 years old. I had just got back from my second burn after a 4-year gap. I let a ton of baggage go. Like just some of that, I'm starting to be an adult, and then realizing what poor habits I have, just letting a lot of that go, and finally feeling like I had space for people, like space to invite people in, to include myself in other people's circles. And I came here. It was really magical. I met my partner here, my current partner. I met here during a really great workshop.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. We live in Eugene together, and she couldn't be here, but she's been here every year since then. So a lot of my friends on the West Coast, where I'm from, Northern California, frequent this festival. And what I love about it, opposed to other ones, is that it's in the end of the year. It's not like a hype festival. It's more of a decompression festival. It's
Definitely decompression. I'm coming back from Burning Man, and this has been wonderful.
Yeah, it's chill. There's there's a little bit of walking in the woods, but it's really crisp and it's really nice. There's no cell service, so it totally removes people relying on their devices to entertain them.
It breaks their habits too.
Absolutely.
The norms of like checking their social media every 5 minutes. Getting
And
a step away and look people in the eyes. Nice.
If they need some space, they can go to the fire circle. They can go to the beach. They can go to the lake. They can take a walk in the woods. There's a lot available at Pacific Fire Gathering, and it's at a great location that really loves us. I feel like the owner, Ranger Steve, or a guy who lives on the premises, really respects how well we take care of the grounds. We put our how do I want to say this? We say what we're going to do. Like, we're people of our word. We really appreciate everything that's provided here for us, and it's important for us to keep that relationship strong, to keep doing this every year. Because if I didn't have Pack Fire, like, I need this weekend. I do. Every year, this is the weekend I look forward to, and then I can reignite a lot of my passions that I have throughout the rest of the year, get tuckered down in the winter, and then come out, be like, oh my gosh, everything's crazy. I just want a Pack Fire to happen.
Last night was particularly crazy because it was a Friday 13th, also with a full moon.
Also full moon
in the sky.
And that moon, dude, it was good.
Oh, I've never seen the reflections glint off the ocean waves like that before.
Yeah, that was something special for sure.
This place and this festival is definitely really special, and all the people here that attend definitely help make it that way.
Happy to have you here.
Thank you. I couldn't want to be anywhere else right now. This is wonderful. Well, Riel, thank you for being on the podcast.
Not a problem. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Enjoy the rest of your festival, man.
I promise you I will. We'll see you tonight.
Thank you.
Fire now. You got my attention. Is something burning?
If you want to support the All Things Fire podcast, head on over to patreon.com and search for Morgan Floki. Thank you for all your support, travelers. Have a great day.